This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Jake Shannon. And you use physics style leverage for premium deals with people. And we're going to talk about your strategy for helping people as a coach. You're a 10x performance coach of the year, founder of No1 Coaching, where you have different operating systems. And we'll let everybody know what the full story is. But before we get to the heart of your story, I ask every guest on the show a couple of questions. What motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Well, it's funny. What motivates me? What motivates me is making a difference. It just is. It's such a great feeling to know that you're doing something that positively affects somebody else, and then maybe in the case of my business coaching, put Christmas presents under the tree for families or food on the table for somebody. So I think that's probably my biggest motivator is making a difference.
That's awesome because you want to pay it forward. You want to take the leverage of what you've learned and then kind of be a mentor and help other people.
Yeah, that's totally right. I just look at myself as a link in a chain. I had mentors and coaches that were amazing and really changed my life. And now I'm in that position. And it's like somebody lit my candle that didn't put out their candle, and me lighting somebody else's candle doesn't put out my candle. It just makes the room brighter. So
Yeah, I think some people they feel like they got to hold their secret sauce. They got to hold like their knowledge. They become a key person dependency. We'll get into that, and then they become their own bottleneck. And we're gonna talk about how founders, maybe are getting in their own way. Because it's like that. The first thing that we're gonna get into is like that owner dependency check. Like if you're like you can't leave as a founder for 30 days and still grow, then you may want to look at that.
yeah, this is the challenge, right? Like, I mean, think about yourself. Like, you can't step away from the podcast,
Well,
right? Because
I have three other hats though.
well, but my point is that, like, in this case, you're doing this because you love it.
Yeah.
It's you're getting great feedback. There's all kinds of motivations while you're doing it. But for somebody who's running a business, and let's say it's just a laundromat, or that's maybe not a great example, but let's say it's a chiropractor.
Yeah, you are the guy.
Right? Like, if I haven't figured out systems, whether that's software systems, AI, whatever, or human systems like staff and whatever, if I'm the main man and I step away and I stop making money, I don't really own a business. I just own a job.
Yeah, you gotta have like, if you're a business, you gotta have your backup, or you have to have a coworker, or you have to have staff, and you can't just have everything in your head. Just to give it like a little background, I am a software development guy. I've been
Oh,
in
nice.
software since the 90s. I work with insurance companies and banks, and with a startup, I've been with Fortune 500 companies. I've worked in Tokyo, worked all over the place. But the fact is, I used to be a guy when I was in my 20s, and I would go around and find the key person dependencies and then pull the knowledge out of them and then try to widely disperse it and get that knowledge out of one person's head and actually because, in information technology, you can't have one guy knowing everything, because if they get hit by a bus or they decide to
That's it.
leave, then the whole system's like trash and you got to start again.
Right. I mean, and right, that's like how like life insurance guys make the pitch, but like key man insurance, right? Like, but what we're talking about is a broader application of key man insurance, like really covering your, what,
Yeah.
so that the operation still runs with or without you, hopefully, right?
Yeah. You got to get all that knowledge out of somebody's head and get the whole enterprise to know it. Because and that basically is like, if you're running a business, and like you said, your chiropractor example, and he doesn't have like an apprentice. He doesn't have like a young doctor with him so that he can take a vacation, that he can take a break. Then he's making a mistake, because like one day you're going to have a problem. And then if that's how your income comes in, you're not going to have a backup.
Yeah, it's a problem. And then the other thing is if you don't start building those kind of those systems, like what so you're in the software industry, you're well aware of like automations that are technological automations, but we also have to look, if we're going to really scale the business, we have to create these human automations. We have to have a second string or an understudy or whatever you want to call it, somebody else who can pick up the slack for us if we want to go on vacation, if we want, or say we want to move from being an owner operator of our business to being an owner investor, or say we want to sell our business. Nobody's going to buy a business if I have to come with it.
Yeah, because you want to be able to have, like, if you create a franchise, like the big M, big, like they have a turnkey process that you buy into it. You got the whole thing. It's like it's all set up. Other people want something more hands-on, but the idea, like, you can't have your secret sauce, and it's like you like you have to be there all the time. They have to hire you, like you said, because it can't run, because all your 80-20 situations, like what happens is they get the 80-20, 90-10, like maybe 80% of the thing can run, but there's like this 20% unhappy path that only you know how to handle, and it's actually maybe high dollar, big problem, or a big like issue. If you're not there, then the whole thing breaks. And so that becomes like, that's the problem I've been solving for like 30 years as a software guy. That's why I come in to try to stop, get rid of those things. But yeah, it sounds like you're doing that with your coaching.
Yeah, it's very similar. I have a master's degree in what's known as financial engineering. So there was I got mine in 2002. So I was studying programming languages like C++ and stuff.
Oh, I'm a COBOL guy. I started with COBOL, but now I'm in AI stuff now. But
it's so funny to me because I see this AI, and to me a lot of it's overblown. And I play with it. I'm a chief data officer in one of the hats that I wear. I'm like yourself. I have multiple businesses. And the funny thing to me is I'm looking at this and I'm like, a lot of this stuff the LLMs are cool. Okay, they're cool for sure. I'm a mathematician by training, or have some experience with it, and they're just language tricks. They're statistical plays.
They're predictive. They're predictive models. And the problem with AI that tricks people, just to kind of give a high level, is because it's better than the old Google search, and because what happens is these predictive models make you think you're talking to data, or make you think you're talking like Spock is talking to the computer on Star Trek, right? But he doesn't have real insight. Everything is predictive. It really doesn't know anything. So if you're a PhD, if you're a master at what you do, you're always going to know more than AI.
This is what people don't understand, right? Is that there are these tricks of mathematics like Zipf's law or Markov chains that create the illusion of sentience. Yeah. But it's just the fact that I've got this giant data set called the internet, like Reddit and everything else out in the world. And it's just matching the letters and making it seem like a conversation that are the most statistically significant clusters of those words. So, yeah, we're in a really weird spot. And, I do think that some of this AI stuff is overblown because, I get into Claude Cowork and I'm expecting my mind to be blown. I'm like, wait a minute. I was running cron jobs in 2003. Wait a minute. You guys are psyched about cron jobs that you could set something to just automate and work without you. I'm like, man, I was Perl scripting and playing with Unix back in 2003.
Those kind of workflow automations have been around for years. And there's people have been playing with this type of stuff in NASA. They've been working in this space for a long time. Jet Propulsion Lab, all those guys have been into this, right? Like the Defense Department was into a lot of this stuff. CIA is into a lot.
And this is the thing. And you because you're doing these kind of automations, what you understand is that there are limits. And I do think this AI is very overblown in some regards. In some ways, it's amazing. There's no arguing that. Like the image generation, the VO3, like the image and the videos, that's like crazy to me. That's so cool. But there are definitely places where you still need a human. I mean, let's look at you said the big M, right? Yeah. Dude, years ago they tried to install kiosks to automate.
Yeah.
And people still don't like them. They still want to go order their food from a person.
Yeah, there's certain things, like I'm a musician. See behind me, I have like real synthesizers.
Oh, nice.
And there's all these people. I was talking to this tech bro one time. He's, we're going to replace like the musician. And I'm like, really? Because people don't want, like, you can put all the AI slop you want out onto the streaming. And they love it because they don't have to pay any commission. Right. So they love it. But the fact is, if you check the fans are actually going back and listening to stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000s.
Well,
they don't like the slop.
Yeah, my kids, I have 3 kids. My eldest is 19, I have 16, and a 14-year-old. And dude, it's so funny. They hate AI. They're like, the second I bring up the AI, I'm like, they're like, did you make that with AI? They're mad. And
Yeah.
and then
But like,
my daughter even noticed this even more so with music anyway. She plays piano by ear and does like singing and stuff. So anyway, she's kind of a music nerd in her own right.
mhm.
But the thing is this, she's like, why does all the music after the 90s suck?
Well, I can tell you a couple things.
Because I think a lot of it's overproduced. You don't
It's
actually have
yeah.
people playing.
Yeah,
You're
but the
not
problem
like being creative.
yeah, the problem is like the digital audio workstation or the DAW, like Ableton, all these things. They've not into it. But basically what happened is from going from a multi-track studio session that was a lot of analog stuff, right?
Right.
And it was all tape. And even when it wasn't tape, it was still like wave file and it was mechanical. It was still, I mean, it was digital, but it had faders and it had real
Yeah.
inputs to pick up real instruments. And there was a whole process to writing a song and multi-tracking where you actually had to have a talent. If you're the bass player, for 4 minutes, you play that bass. You actually play it. If you're the piano player, 4 minutes, you play the piano. The vocalist, and a lot of times the full band's in the studio. And there's something about that sounds authentic because it is, because you're a human being. If you
Well,
go into the DAW and you do a track on layer on top of each other, what happens is, it tries to correct the timing, perfect BPM, perfect pitch. And the problem with art is anytime you try to be perfect, it wrecks it. Because most art, if you talk to a painter, it's like in the moment. A dancer, an actor, it's in the moment. And when you spend obsessed trying to make things perfect, the happy accident is everything in art. And the
that's right.
computer wrecks that. And if you don't understand that, then they go keep on doing what you're doing.
Well, like you said too, like in some of these ways, technology is limiting or liberating, but in other ways, it's very limiting because, like you said, like back in the day, you'd have studio musicians. Everybody's playing in the same room, dude.
Yeah.
You can't replace the vibe of getting
Right.
into a jam and just feeling that, and then what naturally, spontaneously, you can't do that over recording it and then sampling it and then mixing it, and then you can't do that.
It becomes
And
a hodgepodge, it just like the only way, like I'm one guy playing everything with my music.
yeah,
But the thing is I put a multi-track on and I play every part by hand.
oh, like do you do the looping?
I do what you call overdubbing. But
Yeah, I love that.
I basically play it like, back in the day, Stevie Wonder used to put down drums. He used to go play his keyboard. He would put down, that's the old technique when you had, or even a guy like Prince. Prince was a one-man band from the 70s all the way up to the time he died. Most of the time he did everything himself. And it sounded like a real band because it's actually him. And
Yeah, I'm a huge Prince fan, man. Like,
yeah, and that shows you that you can do it. And he didn't like using he used Lynn drum, but he programmed it. And then he played with a bass and stuff over it. So there's something about being a human being and making choices and not letting the computer tell you, correct the BPM. Sometimes you tell Keith Richards, like on XL Main Street, why would you tell Keith Richards to change his BPM? He's going to play that rhythm guitar the way he plays it, and that's the way it is. And it's not perfect if you can't really clock it. And so that's I always point out, like you look at jazz, you look at Keith, you look at like a punk band like the Clash.
yeah, but even outside of music, you could look at sports.
Yeah, you riff it. You got your 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours you put into to be a master. But then you got to riff it when something happens. Like if something happens you didn't practice for, do you become the deer in the headlight or do you know how to react?
Right. And so this is I think the thing that's very interesting in business per se is that, I don't know, maybe someday AI will be doing all the transactions, but until then, it's still people that buy. It's still people that buy, and people want to buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is the hard part is we have to really start focusing on the human element in the business as it is a complement to these other systems that we're automating, right? So like I hear all this hype of how like AI is going to replace every job. And I'm like, bro,
it's not really, because
you don't even you don't understand how easy this shit is to break and how hard it is to build an automation. First of all, a human being can do a lot of crazy stuff and improvise in ways that this AI is really still a long ways from. You
Yeah.
know, like there's so much data that we're not accounting for when we make these stupid claims about AI taking over.
Yeah. It's a lot of hype because I've seen organizations, there's many examples of some of the companies that delivery services and like the driving services that wanted to implement AI models and then they had to back them out. Right?
Right.
They had CRMs that thought they could do it and they had to back it out because the customer experience was terrible. Because the human being, when you want to talk to a human being, you don't want to have to go through all this branching. The customer gets crazy and they're like, this is garbage. Like, and the thing is like sales. My dad was a Prudential insurance agent for 30 years. He had the reason he sold is because he could tell a story and he had relationships. And
Relationships,
you have to be able
100%.
to tell a story and you have to be able to have a relationship with your customer.
Well, what is a story? A story is a piece of something that you can relate to as a human being. AI can't tell me what it's like to have a family and need to cover my family with insurance.
Yeah.
It
It would
just
just
can't. It can
it'll give
fake
you
it.
fake it. It can fake it, but it's not authentic. Like like a human being will pick up the body language, will pick up the nonverbal language, like will pick up like observe things, have all that experience as being a sales guy for 20 years, 10 years. This stuff cues that you pick up. And that human experience is like being able to actually, you know, zone in and figure out like, okay, I know how to deal with this customer. I know how to make him want what I'm selling. And I'm actually make it fit what he needs. Because if you actually want him to come back and to refer you, you don't want him to just
Well,
you're just gonna be a one hit wonder. Or you actually gonna build like my father built up trusted relationships where people like
it's
yeah, he's actually doing it. So I'm not
that's
gonna
it. Like all sales are done between humans, and all sales happen because of trust. Now, can that trust be manipulated? Yeah, you could have scammers, you could have people lie, of course. But this is the point of reputations and trust and all that, and you only have that in a human being.
yeah, because if you want to be able to kind of upsell or get a big list for your Rolodex and actually call people on the phone and actually meet people at the shop, at the coffee shop, meet them in their home instead of just like, I'm just going to text everybody. I'm just going to email everybody. And yeah, people get tired of it. They want to actually see a human being. They want to actually talk to a human being that's actually going to give them something that's more, relatable.
Well, it's like one of the things I see. I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I right now, I have almost 55 different businesses owners that I'm working with and coaching their businesses. Now, I have a strong emphasis on marketing and sales and revenue operations because I do what I've learned over the years is that's very like probably it's the top line on an
Mhm.
income statement for a reason because
Yeah.
every other line is a function of that top line, right? And so, um, but the thing that's so funny is so many people want to outsource or not do sales in their business. And they look down their nose, and I understand there could be a stigma because there are bad salespeople out there that are unethical or manipulative or weird or whatever. I understand that. And I could understand where the industry could get a bad rep. But the fact is, dude, how long have robocalls been around, man? Like I remember robocalls when I was a teenager. I'm 53. Like I remember robocalls like a long time ago. And I'm sorry, as technologically as advanced as we are now, still nobody likes to get here like an 11
No, nobody's
Labs
gonna drop it.
calling you to have you make a $50,000 purchase. Like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't gonna do the people will do it after you have a relationship. Like, my dad,
Yes.
finding out like, oh, your cousin's buying a new home. Your aunt is sending their kid to college. They might need this. They might need this. This person has
Right.
this new person. It's like you build this big like net or this big web of all these relationships, and it because you have a trusted relationship, then people refer you to other people, and then
That's
you keep
it.
on selling stuff, and that's how you build it. You can't just keep on. Well, you guess you keep on robocall and trying to expand out, expand out, expand out.
I
You
mean,
have
you'll find a few people. It's statistically, if you just throw enough spaghetti at the wall, something's going to stick. but dude, again, until we're selling to AI.
Yeah, you're selling a compute to compute.
Yeah, right, exactly. Until that happens, and I don't see that happen anytime soon. We've got to develop these. I call them human systems, but it's like basically like you alluded to with the franchise. When I buy a franchise, I'm buying a system. I'm buying a bunch of SOPs, recipes,
Yep.
SOPs, standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
I could give that book to a pimply-faced teenager, and he can run the cash register, turn on the drive-through, cook a hamburger, run the fry machine, clean the toilet. It's all just written there.
It's all there. Yeah.
Done. Those are the things that have to happen so that you don't own a job and you actually own a business and go on vacation. And that's one of the things that I deal with a lot. So these entrepreneurs come in, and the vast majority of businesses are still run. There's one employee.
There's a sole proprietor. Yeah. A lot of times it's like that, right?
Well, is there maybe some sort of connection to the fact that the vast majority of businesses are one person, and the vast majority of businesses fail?
Yeah, well, if you're one person, you're gonna have, there's a real like tightrope there.
It's too much.
Eventually, you're gonna crash. At some point, if you don't have a backup, you're gonna crash.
Right? I mean, even like we create backups of files. Because something as reliable as a machine crashes. Well,
how many backups do we have? We get kind of crazy. Like, we gotta have the cloud backup. We gotta have the real physical backup. We got this backup. Like,
right. We got the drives. We got the old, like, I plugged in the drive. It's in my garage, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you got the hardware backup. You got the cloud backup, and people don't always trust the cloud backups anymore because they're like, oh, I don't know if AI is going to wipe it out.
Right.
Because sometimes it does. But the thing about the idea, they had these guys, and I'll get into this thing again, but the tech bros, but they were going around saying, oh, how much we're spending on compute. Like they spent their whole budget on the compute and acting like it's a big deal. It's like, what isn't the bottom line whether or not you're actually profit loss? Did you actually make a profit? So if you're pointing out that you've got a compute cost that's more than when you had people, you can't really prove that you actually did anything better. You can't prove that you actually made any money, but you're excited that you spent all this money on the compute. What is that?
It's silly. It's just, to me right now, we're in the middle of massive hype. I mean, you were probably around during the .com bubble.
Oh, yeah.
The internet, was it massive? Yeah. Has it changed our lives? But dude, it was like way oversold.
It was stuff too. Yeah, it's like most of those things failed. I mean, most of them failed. And just like this, it's like if you put $1 trillion into your GPUs, and your GPUs you only have a life expectancy of 5 years, and you actually have never made a profit, and your model is subscription, but you want to switch it to actually paying for the token. Well, if people have to pay the price of the token, they won't pay. So, like, how are you going to pay for all those GPUs?
Well, and you raise an actually very interesting problem. So, we have been everybody. You can't look anywhere on a screen without hearing something about a data center. Like they're everywhere, whether it's negative or positive. Data center this, data center that. Here's the problem. This hype machine for this AI stuff going on right now. And again, it's great. I use it. It's cool, but it's overhyped. It's oversold because here's the thing. We have gone bankrupt. Like you're talking about profitability. You've probably seen that kind of, I don't have a better way to say it, but the circle jerk where it's like NVIDIA is paying them and then the money's not even being created. It's just circulating.
Nobody's buying it and they're all paying each other. They're all buying from each other.
Right. And here's the problem. All of that money went out into infrastructure. Okay. So we're basically really on the edge right now. Like if you took out like NVIDIA and a few other companies from the S&P, we would be in it's not good. There's a few companies keeping the stock market up. Everything else is not great. We have gone so far into debt. I don't want to talk politics, but all the fraud stuff, but with just infrastructure projects. But they do pay off eventually. So, for example, when we, after World War II, we created the interstate system, dude, it was a huge expense. We went into debt, but eventually we recouped the cost. When we did the same thing with railroads, right? Like we created these railroads, huge expense, took years. The railroads, they last 60 years before you have to replace them.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The data centers, 3 years on a server, and then you're going to have to replace all this stuff? What the heck?
You put $1 trillion into something, it's not like a bridge. It's not the dam. It's not that, it's not the aqueduct. It's not those things can pay. You can push it and they may last 50 years, 80 years. Right?
These data centers have like a 3 to 5 year. I mean, we're not going to recover that cost.
And then, like, have you shown, like I said, with the subscription model versus the token model?
Oh, dude.
When somebody I had an example, like this service was saying, I could do the AI for free. And for free, yeah, I did it. And then suddenly it said $49 a month. And I said,
right.
Well, why would I pay for it when it was free? So what happens when people are told what the cost is? And that's not even the true cost. True cost was probably like really $300, but they're trying to get $49, and I wouldn't give it to them. So that's the problem. Like, what's going to happen when they try to get people to switch to that model, and people say, "Well, I don't need to do that."
Yeah, it's the same thing as the .com bubble. It's just a lot. I don't know if you remember this, but remember they were like, "Oh, the new economy," and "Oh, economics has changed." I'm like, guys, supply and demand. It's just, dude, like we live in a world where there's supply and demand. I don't see that changing.
Yeah.
Just because some crazy new thing is coming out and is a shiny object. So the value of people is still super duper important. And one of the things that I've figured out here is that how do we get people, well, like, why reinvent the wheel? Right. Mm-hmm. So I like numbers. I like data. I think the Gallup organization that does all those polls, Gallup, they've done some real interesting work, and every year they put out a report. Basically, it's on how engaged employees are at their work.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2025 there was only like 21% engagement.
Well, that's the problem.
2026 it went down to 20%. So basically, employers are paying $1 and getting 20 cents of labor.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it is because people are scrolling their phones or who knows what the hell they're doing. So they're not engaged in their work. But dude, that's a massive, massive problem. Massive. Yeah. I think the number that they came out with was $10 trillion a year blown because people are just not engaged with what they're doing. So to me, how do we get past this problem? And one of the things, Gallup put out a great book. Highly recommend this book. It's not like a page turner, but if you're interested in this kind of thing, it's called It's the Manager. And what they found is that 70% of the variance in the success of a business has to do with the manager. And their prescription was change the manager. I mean, if I went into a school and said, hey guys, how many of you want to be managed when you grow up? No kid's going to raise his hand. Not a single person wants to be managed. But if instead we changed, and this was the idea of Gallup, and I ran with this hard. I think they just kind of dropped it, and I haven't seen them do much with it. But they've got to change managers into coaches.
Yeah. I think you probably have the problem, I think, with a lot of management in the U.S., because I was in Tokyo for a couple of years, is what I see is like you basically have people who are micromanaging. They just have people, they're kind of just watching people like they're like the desk monitor.
Yeah.
And it's like I've been working in startups for the last 10 years. And what I find in a startup, everybody's passionate. People are putting in 100 hours.
100
hours, right?
And sometimes not even getting paid.
Yeah, they're just doing, well, they might get stock in the end, but the idea is they're passionate about what they're doing. And I like to be in places where I actually have an idea. I can talk to the CIO. I can talk to the CFO. I can talk to the founder. And if I talk to them at lunch, I can actually be doing that, but in the next hour. But if you're in an organization where there's so much bureaucracy and they basically have you sitting in the cube doing like menial things, you're not really interested. You're not activated. Like it was in Japan, and the people on the floor could tell the engineer if they saw something that was wrong. and the
Sure.
engineer would actually change it. In other types of organizations, like, oh, you can't get through the red tape, you can't fix it, right? So then you have people who are super passionate about what they're putting together because they feel like if they see something wrong, it will actually get heard and they actually make it better. If you
Well,
don't
and
have that kind of relationship, how are you going to actually get better?
well, think about right. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel here. We can think about like what type of organizations are people actually incredibly engaged. What I discovered and have had really great success. So statistically, like again, I'm a nerd. Like so, of my clients, we get on average, I get a 52% increase in revenue in 6 months. Right?
Mhm.
Okay, so if you're $1 million company, that's $540,000.
That's real money.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's a 54% increase. So that's crazy, dude. Right? That's better than Bitcoin in the last couple of years in
Oh,
terms of
yeah.
right. So that's a really. But what is it that I'm doing? And what I'm doing is I'm asking these people. I'm like, what if? Because how many entrepreneurs or business? Oh, we run our company like a family. Really? Like, if I'm looking to have high performance, I'm not looking at a family because I've seen some families out there.
Yeah, they might be
What
just
I'm looking for is I'm looking for a championship sports team.
yeah.
Right? Because first of all, coaching's already intrinsic in it. You have coaches, not managers, at least in the game where it matters. And so, what is the difference, say, between a coach and a manager? Right? We all the vibe check on it. First of all, just the vibe. Like,
Yeah, your
managing is
manager,
not
you're
cool.
probably not going to be happy to show up for your manager versus your coach.
because the coach, he wants to win the game, and I think that's where the manager and him have commonality. But how do you win the game? The coach says, "I'm going to do that by developing the athlete.
Yeah, you got to make them better.
I've got to take a vested interest and actually give a squirt about the performance of this person and how can I help them hit these targets? How can
Yeah,
I
it's
help
like
them put the points on the board?"
that's like in music. Like I always point out, like a fusion jazz band. If you're like Miles Davis and you have Coltrane and you have the guys from Weather Report and you've got Herbie Hancock, he went and brought in like these elite musicians.
Right.
And then he trusted them, and he would actually show up at the so let's go to the recording studio and say, "Where's the charts?" He's like, "No, play what you feel. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna give you like a framework, but I'm gonna trust you to come and give me the best game. Like do it." And when you're not top down in it, and you actually let Herbie play the keys he wants to play, you let Coltrane play what he wants to play. You let the drummer play what they can actually do. You don't top down it. Then you get something that's better than what you ever would have tried to come up with. And like
True.
that's the same kind of teamwork that I find in like
Well,
musicianship.
like in a band or musicians, it's like a sports team. If I put my kicker on the offensive line, my kicker's going to have a bad day. Because he's probably a small little dude, and he's going against 400-pounders. He's just going to have an awful. He's going to hate his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to make sure that the right guy is on the right instrument. First of all.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second thing is once he's there, I've actually got to measure. Okay, if you're my wide receiver, what's your 40-yard dash? If you're my quarterback, what's your completion rate? If you're the kicker, how many goals did you make? Like, I've got to start tracking numbers first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I've got to have a target. I've got to set a number. Like, what is the leading indicator? So, for example, let's say it's a sales guy. You got to make 100 phone calls a day. That's the lead measure. I can measure that. Great. If he doesn't hit 100 calls, well, now I know maybe that's part of what's going on. Hey, dude, I see your numbers aren't up. What is going on? Hey, I see you're not hitting free throws. What is going on? Oh, man, I got this stuff in my family and all that. So you got to have a lead measure. So let's say with the sales guys, the number of calls, and you got to have a lag measure, which is maybe say the result of those calls, how many appointments set or how many conversions.
Yeah,
Now,
conversions.
the
Yeah.
relationship between the two would be the conversion rate. So if I
Mhm.
have a leading measure and then a lag measure, I actually have three measures to help me make better decisions with my people, with my human automations, with my systems, with my SOPs. So I could now say, okay, look, Johnny, your number of dials, your lead measure, the team average is 100 and you're doing 60. Okay, I could see that's an effort problem. The guy might be lazy, might have something going on, might not be sleeping enough. But now, let's say that Johnny is hitting 100, but he's not converting. That's a skill problem.
Yeah.
I need to go in and be like, bro, you're doing all the work. You're a great worker. Awesome. Thank you. That's the bare minimum to cash a check here. But you can't keep the spot on the team unless you're putting points on the board, bro. That's just it. Like, I like you and you're cool. We can go bowling. Oh, that's awesome. But dude, I'm trying to win.
Yeah. But what if you have a scenario where it's a little bit more nuanced, where what if you have a smaller number of calls, but the number of conversions actually has a higher dollar value? Like the conversions that you get are bigger than the guy that did 100.
You
Let's say
still
a
have
guy
some
did,
you can measure. You could hit still but look, let's say that we're assuming we're all selling, let's say we're selling a car for $50,000 just to make it easy and uniform. I have a guy doing 100 calls, okay? And he's selling one.
Mhm.
So he has a 1% conversion ratio, okay? Hard worker, not putting any points on the board. Now let's say that I have a guy who is doing 5 calls and selling 4 cars.
Yeah. So in that case, he actually brought in more money.
He brought in more money, but here's the problem. This is a team. So the guy's got talent, 100%. He's talented, dude. Like, he doesn't even have to do anything, but he's lazy. Bro, look, not everybody's as talented as you. And your bad attitude, your laziness, I get it. You're a superstar. Yeah, I'll hail you. Good job. What is your deal, dude? If you've got an 80% conversion ratio, why don't you do 100 cars and 100 calls, sell 80 cars at $50,000? Like, I've got to figure out how to get this guy to get his peak performance. He's talented, but 4 cars, it's like the idea, right? Like they always say, like, oh, work smarter, not harder. That's great. Okay, the smart guy is gonna if it's just that, working smart versus working hard, the smart guy is probably gonna win because he'll figure out automations, he'll figure out leverage, something. But the guy who works hard and smart is gonna beat the guy who just works smart.
Yeah, that's
My
true.
job as a coach is to get that person to realize that potential and be like, dude, you're slacking, bro. You're well, I've had so many great coaches, most of them athletics, but I've applied their teachings to my financial background and my business background. And one of my coaches would always say, like, this idea of the schoolboy champion. And he's like, look, you're going to run into these guys. Let's use wrestling for an example. They were the best wrestler in the high school. Amazing. Big man on campus, and maybe they didn't have to work so hard because they had talent. Great. Now you got a scholarship to Penn State or Nebraska or one of these good wrestling schools. Every dude in that room, that's the baseline. They were the best guy in their high school. So you're just going to be like, what was that, Napoleon Dynamite, where the uncle was still reliving his high school dream, living in a van?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be the champ that goes and wins the NCAAs and then goes to the pros? And so I hear what you're saying, but I really believe the job of a coach is to push the talented guy to put in the work that the non-talented guy is doing just to survive.
That's true. I think there's kind of a situation in the real world in terms of, like, okay, that person that might do the 5, maybe they actually take more time with each person than the person that did 100. Maybe that's why they closed the sales.
Well, that's part of maybe the analysis too, right?
Yeah.
So if we have the data and we're like, dude, look, we've done this several different times. or I look at it and I go and talk to that athlete or that sales guy who's doing the 4 or 5 units, and I'm like, okay, great job, dude. Jack it up. Let's get the lead measure up and see if that affects the lag measure. Now I actually have a dial that I'm twisting, and the engineer in me, I can now begin building this system. And I can see like, well, look, dude, we jacked up your numbers. You went to 50 and you went from selling 5 to 3. Something we've got. This is how we diagnose, because we actually are measuring this performance.
Yeah, it could be that they're taking a lot of time to get those 5 sales.
And, I mean, this is a hypothetical, so we can make up whatever reason.
Yeah, no, but the same. But sometimes is what happens is
the data is the beginning of the story. Yeah. People think it's the end of the story. The data is just there for me to help figure out what the hell is going on.
Figure out what the problem is. You're trying to get to root cause analysis. I mean, in programming, we look at like what's the root cause, right? Of why is the bug happening,
right?
And sometimes we might spend a lot of time on one thing, right? We might have 10 bugs, but one's a critical. And you say, we got to spend all the same amount of time on each bug. That's not the case, right? The one that's the super critical might take 100 hours. So sometimes like the way you do the analysis, it's not always going to be equal among all the levels of things you're looking at.
But right. So the data is just the beginning of the story. I got to have the data though first. And so I want to, right. So what you're talking about, I'm saying take that and let's apply that to humans.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do you have that initial sweep to get the initial metrics. Then you do a deeper dive to try to figure out why did you get those metrics. And then you have to, with human beings, I was a sociology major, like, you have group behavior, and then you get into psychology, you have individual behavior. And then when you're in the workplace, you have a little bit of both. You have the individual behavior, but you also have them, how they interact with groups.
But see, this is the beauty of the sport metaphor, right? Yeah. Because now, like not all companies are the same, and not all of them have the same aims or goals or targets. If you're at a company that wants to grow, meaning make more money and hire more people to grow, you're going to have to look at this data, and just like you're debugging a technological system, you have to debug the human systems, the human automations. And that is the component parts, and then the way that the component parts build up into the actual system and interact as well. But we have to start with, and it really is starting with data. But the problem is most people don't even bother with this. They don't even bother. This is like the simplest way to actually look at your thing and fix it.
Right. You're looking at, it's like anything. You got to debug, the red lights going off in your car. You got to do that, get the little scanner, figure out what the fault is, and then start looking at what's the root cause of the fault, then get in there and then say, oh, it's actually a symptom of this thing. And
that's the programmer, the programmer or the engineer, the software engineer is going to look at everything as a solvable problem. But for some reason, when we're dealing with humans, we're just like, oh, well, okay, it's just because he's got depression, or we just we don't solve the problem. We just let it slide. And it's like, guys, I can look at sports. There are people doing like unbelievable, amazing things because they're being pushed and they've got the proper incentives in place and they got the right teamwork and they got the right individual.
It's like coaching and mindset. Like your mindset, like the human brain can be reprogrammed like a computer. So the mindset that somebody has. So if they're a half stepper and they've been allowed to be a half stepper, if you actually come in with a coach mindset and you get to that person and you find a way to communicate.
So yes and no. And this is where it's like, look, dude, not everybody's going to play for the NBA. There's some 4 foot tall people.
Not everybody can be fixed, but I mean, you can try you can at least, if you have somebody that's like a half stepper, either you can try to reprogram them, get them to like change their game, change their mindset. If they don't, then maybe they're out the door. Right?
That's it. That's exactly it. So either you're going to, as a coach, you're going to step them up. But the thing is the only problem that I have with that metaphor of like human brain as computer is that there is this part of the black box that we don't understand. And it is this thing that separates AI from humans. As far as we could, I don't know what it is. I'm very agnostic about this, but I also am very like kind of radically agnostic. I don't pretend to know something or confuse a metaphor for reality. And the fact is that sometimes a half stepper is by choice.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't change your mindset,
they could sit there and practice their freaking riffs, or they could scroll or play Call of Duty. These are these micro decisions. And my job as a coach is to try to pull that person in. But if they don't want to do it,
I mean, not everybody can be salvaged, right? Not everybody can be retrained. And so you're going to run into it. But I think if somebody has just not been challenged and you actually come to them and they look at you as a mentor, it gets into the psychology and the sociology of their approach. Some folks, if you approach them a certain way, they'll put the back up and they're never going to do it. And if you figure out the different personality types, you can approach
for sure. I mean, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in coaching, because you got to figure out how to motivate people.
Yeah.
But the key to it is it's so much easier if you just think of it like a sports game. Dude, some people just like look at somebody like Kobe Bryant. Or who's the guy who does all the free throws now? I can't remember his name. But dude, Kobe Bryant was in the gym at 4 a.m.
Well, he put the work in, yeah. If you put the work,
but he made the choice, dude. 4 a.m. rolls around, I guarantee you, Kobe Bryant was like, "Fuck, I don't want to get up," and he got up anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the difference.
That's the thing. If you have somebody that puts it in, like I always go into like the great, musicians. You get the Miles Davises, the Jimmy Pages, the Coltrane's, the
Jaco Pastorius.
They Jacko, they put their work in. And the thing is with top level musicians, they always put the work in, and they're always keeping up with their game. And the thing is, like, if you don't do it, you lose it. Right. So if you, no matter what, like if you get these guys that like take 3 years off as a musician, instead of the guys that were working the whole time. The guy that's working all the time, he never loses a step.
See, that's the guy who I want in my trio.
Yeah.
That's why there's tryouts, right? It's like why there's dating. Okay, first date, you're telling me a bunch of bullshit. Like, cool. I'm really going to know you after we go on our first vacation. Then I'm going to be like, okay, now I know what it's like when I got to
how they really are.
I got to hang out all the time. I got to be in the car all the time. I got to see how you treat the bathroom. Like, now I'm getting a better picture, And so there is this weird thing when you're dealing with this, with individuals and teams, where it's a combination of like, yeah, there is a little bit of the carrot, a little bit of the stick. And a lot of it is about making sure that you got the right person in the right seat.
Yeah, you got to pick the right team. Like if you're like a part of being an entrepreneur, like if you're going to go beyond sole proprietorship, like your team building and your choices you make and how you build the team, like you build that tight band, you build that tight like sports team where everybody is in the right position. The whole team, that's when you win the championship, because most of the people are in the right position. Maybe there's a couple that aren't. But
well, and then it even goes beyond talent, right? Because I've got the right guy on clarinet, I got the right guy on bass, I got all that, but then the guy's shooting up. Like, dude, I can't. How can I?
Yeah, that's gonna tear it down. I mean,
like, how can I do that, dude? Like, I can't.
At the end of most of these great bands is that you had the right guys in Zeppelin until Bonham took too many drinks. Right. And so then the whole thing fell apart.
This is the point. The lead measure is the showing up, is the not doing drugs, is putting in the hard work. The lag measure is, dude, it was fucking John Bonham, dude. The guy could play drums like a freak. But the lead, he had the talent, but he wasn't putting in the work.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up going, he just took himself out of the game. When you take yourself out of the game, then you're out. He's like, so you either have the dedication and you're like one of these guys in New Orleans that's been playing since they were like 15 and they're 80 and they're still playing in the jazz band because like that's what their life is and that's what they do, right?
So look at somebody like a session musician.
Yeah.
Super talented, workhorse, they're on every album. Like,
Everything.
you think of like all the yacht rock people, like, what was the one big band that was on everything? You know what I mean? Like,
Steely Dan.
Yeah, Steely Dan, right? Exactly. Like, they're literally in every freaking song. You don't even know it.
Well, Michael McDonald's like singing all this stuff all
on
the time.
everything, right? Because they're session musicians. They've got both the lead and the lag measure. Like, these are reliable, badass workhorses who are also talented as hell.
Yeah.
That's my team. That's where I can grow. I can expand.
Yeah, they were good. Steely Dan, they became a studio band and they picked like Motown drummers. They picked great session musicians.
Bro, they're playing on Thriller and stuff, dude.
Yeah, like, these guys were like really awesome drummers, like Picaro. You got Purdy from Shuffle from Motown. You got Michael McDonald, who's the GOAT. They have all these great guys because they say, you know what, we're gonna build these great teams, and they had multiple teams that they brought in to fit whatever they needed.
So what you're talking about now is we're talking about how do I run a business in music? I need people who are both talented but not crackheads. I just can't do it. I need to know. I've got everybody in the studio. You've got to show up on time, and you got to work 12 hours if that's what it takes to get this take.
Yeah, you got to put the time in. It's like you got to have somebody who's going to show up on time, going to be there, going to perform to the level that you actually have good output. And so then you have a reliable source that you're going to continue to actually call on them. And then you really feel like then you're running like a music enterprise. Like they built like a whole brand.
Bro,
that's just a brand.
How much, what are their residuals like? It's like got to be insane. Cause like every time I turn on the radio, they're playing on something.
They're like the GOAT. Of like that type of music. And even today, people are like, oh, you can't get away from it because they were so damn good.
Prolific. They just produced, but that's what business is about. It's about production and growth and expansion and supply to meet the demand. And if nobody else could do it because they don't have a functioning team, then my stuff gets used more.
Yeah. You show up, you're reliable. You're always creating good product, and music is a product. Like anything you build, if you have a service, you can't be scared about like what you're doing. You're selling a widget, right? And you got to be proud of what you're selling. You got to be believing what you're selling. If you believe it and you think it's the best thing since sliced bread and it's better than that, then you should be able to keep on pushing it.
Like look, remember how big Guns N' Roses were like right around 1990?
Oh yeah.
And freaking Axl Rose or whatever his name is can't even fucking show up on time. Are you kidding me, dude?
He decided that he had this idea that took him 10 years to implement.
It's like, dude, are you crazy, man? Like, anyway,
Chinese democracy, he had like 10 years to implement it.
But dude, so this is really what I'm passionate about is these human systems that have to come together. And it's everything we talked about, bro. Like, think about all the crazy stuff we spanned.
Yeah.
We talked about AI, computers, music, sports, the individual, sociology, psychology. Like, dude, all of that has to come together.
Yeah.
In a band but no matter, maybe the product isn't music. Yeah. Maybe the product is hairspray. I mean, I don't need it. You don't need it. But my point is that somebody needs it, and somebody's going to grow and dominate that area, and others aren't. And if we want to be on the winning team, what is the recipe?
You've got a method, and the thing is, people need coaches like yourself. They need to understand, you call it like scientific wrestling. We've got your website up here. We got your Instagram there. We also got your QR code so people can take that and scan that. You. But so if you scan that, it'll go right to, I believe it's going to your main website.
Well, so I actually have a couple businesses. The scientific wrestling business is this interesting business that's kind of on the edge of MMA. The number one predictor of champions in mixed martial arts like UFC right now.
Yeah. So you have
is an amateur wrestling background. Is actually like high school and college wrestling, like NCAA wrestling. Those guys go in and just dominate. It's the number of more than like karate or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai.
It's a big guy.
Those are all great, tough guys, and you need to know a little bit of everything. But the guys who have the foundation of wrestling go in and dominate. And that's actually where I learned. I had some of my coaches, one of my coaches, 4-time undefeated UFC champion, Frank Shamrock.
Mhm.
I've had another one is Guinness record holder for the most wins and pins of all wrestling. His name's Wade Chalice. Well, I've taken a lot of the principles that they've taken to get performance out of themselves and their teams, and then taken that and married entrepreneurship, financial engineering, and all that to show how we can actually improve the individual and team performance in a business.
By taking like I guess the discipline from athletics. Like if you take the discipline from athletics, you take the discipline, like anybody who's a professional, like, professional actors that take all that time to get to the level that you get to be like a De Niro. You get to
Dude, it's the same thing because a musician,
yeah,
dude, if I'm a musician, I'm playing live, dude. I can't mess up. Yeah. If I'm Tom Brady, I'm throwing a pass live. I can't mess up. If I'm on Broadway and acting, I can't mess up. Yeah. So how do I do that? Training.
It's all training.
If I'm training, I need a coach. Vocal coaches, acting coaches, sports coaches, business and sales is a performance. So it's, what I've done is I've actually, my book, I know it's backwards. I don't know if that's showing for, but Sportify is my idea of taking, and you're probably familiar with this concept from programming, gamification, right? Leaderboards, points, badges, all that kind of stuff that's used in software, and extrapolating it beyond gamification and adding actual coaching on top of the gamification to get performance out of business.
Yeah, and also what their younger people today probably align with that a lot faster.
Yeah, right.
Because that makes sense. Because that's kind of what they know. So if you can speak in a language that people understand, they're more willing to adopt it and understand it instead of saying, "What do you mean?"
Well, like I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm talking about. So I'm doing my best. I'm not a musician, but I'm trying to use musical metaphor and ideas to get this idea across. But you're right. Like this is a metaphor. Sporting is a great metaphor for business.
Yeah, that's totally awesome.
They map very, very well.
Yeah, I've always seen that there's a real like synergy between all those, and it's art. People sometimes don't look at athletics as it's an art and a science, and it's a discipline, and there's a certain it's a performance art. Like when you're
how do I win when the pressure's on? It's live. I've got to perform. I cannot mess up.
Yeah, and it's like when you look at athletes, it's like ballet. I mean, to me, it's like a dance, but it's a dance where you're getting points. Right. But like you have to perform certain movements of your body that happen to be, that's what you need for sports versus dance. Right. But it's still, you can actually look at it and it's very, there's beauty in the movement. When you see really great, like athletes, you see like their plays, people slow them down and say, wow, how did they do that? That in itself, it's the performance, the art of performance.
Dude, what is that where Prince got up and did the solo with was it like the Traveling Wilburys, and it just like blew everybody's mind. He's like just going crazy, right? Like that's beauty. The interesting thing about sports though, now sometimes like figure skating or these other sports that are more judged.
Yeah, judged.
But dude, like if you're doing football, basketball, MMA, wrestling, you're not only having to do the performance, but you have another human being actively acting against you, trying to mess you up.
Yeah. So then that's in itself, that's the added feature is like, you're not just you.
That's like playing punk rock at CBGB and people were throwing bottles at you.
Yeah. It's like when
I got to keep playing my riff.
Green Day was at Woodstock and people throwing mud at him. I was there.
Right.
Actually, I saw that, and Billy was throwing the mud back. But, yeah, I think it's interesting, everything we've talked about. And again, I want people to make sure that they scan the QR code, jump on that actually goes to your Sportify. So if people go there, like, what will they find there?
Okay, so if they go to the QR code, that is, it's a freebie. You can go in. It's exactly what I was talking about the this idea that you're giving your employees $1, but they're only giving you 20%, 20 cents back in work.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually, I have a calculator. I call it the lethargy tax. so lethargic, like not being like lackadaisical, whatever. You could actually put in your numbers, put in the number of staff, the payroll, and you could see how much money you're actually losing because
Losing
people are
everything.
not, they're being managed and not
Your
coached.
productivity ratio, like what you're getting your number, actual real productivity.
Dude, that's money that's being lost that could be increased if you were crawling up their ass because you cared and you were coaching them.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I think instead of just like, well, you know, a lot of people just look at the employees maybe like widgets instead of thinking them as like resources that you actually can amplify. If you actually invest in amplifying their capability instead of just saying, well, just replace the widget.
Yeah, and this is the thing. They're humans. They're not widgets. So I'd rather think of this like a sport, and that person is my athlete, and I need them to slam dunk.
Yeah, because that's going to work a lot better. I think the outcome's going to be a lot more positive. But I want to thank you for being here on a Friday night. We always hit the hour quicker than we ever imagined. But I want to thank you for being here. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick, and we will be on multiple platforms by the end of the day tomorrow. But I want to thank you for taking the time with us on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Dude, you're a great interviewer, super smart guy. More power to you. Thank you for having me on, sir.
Well, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.